Yep.
Yep,
It says
we are now
recording.
Okay, good. I'm just going to jump out for a quick second to go to the agenda and share that, talk about the evening, maybe a couple points, and then we'll go on to some notes that I distributed to the team earlier this morning. We'll go from there.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the agenda that we had put out. And basically it was review results of the select board meeting. And also begin to look at development proposals and propositions and where to go. Look at some costs, which we'll cover in our notes, and communication, which we'll cover in the notes.
Sorry,
And
Phil,
I guess
it doesn't show up for me. I don't know. Does it show up for other people?
No.
Okay.
No.
You're talking about the agenda, Elena?
Yeah.
Yeah, I printed it anyway, but I did see it for a second ago.
Right. Well, I
see
think,
it.
but just now it was a blank screen.
Okay, let me try again to share. Could be my internet connection if that's the case. I was afraid of some of that. I'm getting feedback somewhere.
I have a quick question. Do we have a quorum?
I'm sorry?
Do we have a quorum? Okay.
We do. I think we have Elena as an alternate because Mike's not here. Oh, but there's the real person we'll talk about.
Mike is here now.
We have Dave.
Oh,
we have
Mike's
myself. We have Mark.
Yeah. Is what 12 on the committee?
I'm trying to share again. Does anybody see the agenda?
Yes,
Yeah.
it shows now.
Okay. I apologize. Connections are sporadic.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
All right, I see it now.
Alrighty. I think just to get us centered on where we're headed this tonight, getting a little feedback from somebody. Is that you, Mark?
No, actually, I think it's both your accounts talking to each other.
Coming from me? Okay. The committee meeting, a couple things, the important things, the select board unanimously supports this project going forward. And wanted the committee to continue, which I think is excellent. Some of the minor changes that happened during the committee during the select board meeting is that Mike will be our primary and Elena will be the alternate. And that's because basically Elena's the chair now, and so they're shifting their duties going forward. But
I'll let Dan Byer know to make the change. I'll let Dan Byer know to make the change. Doesn't he have to put that on our page?
Yes.
I don't know that we've formally voted on that yet as a select board. So, but I think we will probably be doing that later this summer when we talk about our boards and committees. I don't know, Mike,
Okay.
do you have thoughts on that? We talked about it, but we didn't vote.
He's mute if he's talking. I don't hear him.
I said we both tend to attend the meeting, so I don't think it really matters who's what. So one of us vote,
Right.
Okay.
I'm happy to let you vote, Mike.
You're right. You both attend, so we could draw straws each evening. Okay. Then we talked about a bunch of considerations. Big topics were around communications. How can we communicate to the voters better? We talked about getting more select board and town vision involved. We talked about what are the options and looking at different costs and different things. I spoke to Mike Petrovic, and he's also on the meeting tonight. And he had some thoughts as well that I'll let him share along the way once we get to that point. But I think what I'd like to do is flip over to the notes that I sent out and talk about, Elena, I might ask you to talk about the various options or Mike when we get there, but I just kind of summarize what I remembered in our earlier notes.
So, sorry, I think that feedback might be coming from Peg. I don't know if we could mute you, Peg, when you're not talking. Looks like it's your box that gets lit up with the noise.
All right, well, I'm on the computer, which I'm never on. I'm usually just on my phone, so I gotta find where you want me to mute. I think it must be
I think I
down.
might be able to do it for you. I just didn't want to,
Yeah,
let me
do it.
see.
Go for it.
Better?
All right. Thank you, Peg.
Okay, here we go. I don't know if you're able to see my screen. Some of the thoughts for the committee meeting tonight. Notes. You see a Word doc.
Yes.
One of the things, Elena and Micah, if you would share your thoughts, I try to boil it down that we had 2 or 3 alternatives. A September special election by the 15th, and basically no additional meeting. November election and a November town meeting. And then the May. Are there any other options that we discussed? I mean, there are the variants, so there's different cost factors.
Right.
But
So, I mean,
right.
So November town, so, right, we either use this past May town meeting vote and do it by September 15th, or we need another town meeting vote. So, and then like if we do the special town meeting, we could do a special election also. So that's also a possibility. Or we could piggyback onto the November presidential, or they call it the state election.
Yep. Okay, that would be.
Or, I mean, I guess there is another option listed which we can actually call a special town meeting for the express purpose of voting on this, like an additional town meeting. That's another option that would have more expense as well.
In my notes, I took from Ellen, she provided me some draft costs, which I think are pretty accurate from this last town meeting. These are the costs from the existing town meeting, where she indicated that it's roughly $6,000 to do a special election, which requires the programming of the systems, writing the ballot, vote by mail capabilities, election workers, and police duties. So that's roughly what, if we do a special standalone, that's what it would cost.
Well, it'd be a special election. If you need the town meeting as well, that'll be, if we don't piggyback an existing special town meeting, it'll be 6,000 plus some dollar amount.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. If we did another town meeting.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's the cost parameters that we have behind that. But I think before we get to a lot of these things, this is just to put a framework to put in your mind scheduling of what the events may be. Before we go forward, I think the select board meeting, Mike Petrovic indicated it, that we really need to understand the voters and what communications and why they voted no, I think was a question that came out at both the select board meeting, at our meetings, and Mike Petrovic indicated that to me in mail that he sent me. And Mike, I don't know if you want to express your thoughts openly to the committee here.
I guess just in my experience, this thing becomes a moving target. And so if you're going to go through the effort of doing something again, what is the best opportunity to have this be approved by the town? And so it seems to me that there needs to be a pulse on who voted no and why. And how do you overcome that before you approach? And I think the building itself is not the issue. This thing could be a moving target. What is the issue and how do you overcome it? It was close, obviously, So I think to just say, let's try it again without truly understanding that, in my opinion, is not time or money well spent.
Can I make a comment? This is Amy.
Yes, Amy?
So just over the weekend, during our major fundraiser, one of our supporters said to me, "Oh, how did the vote turn out?" And I said, "We lost by 52 votes." She said, "Oh, she got her mail-in ballot, but she never mailed it in." This is a younger person who, again, is supporting us. So we're hearing that. We're hearing from a few seniors that, "Oh, I didn't remember till it was 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, and I thought it was, too late. Hopefully you didn't lose by one vote." So we've heard things like that too. I'm not sure what that means, but I mean, people needed more encouragement, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, there's some of that I think is true, Amy, I think. Because I heard some of that too, where and knowing my neighbors, some made it, and half the family made it, the other half couldn't, for good, valid reasons. But, that handful of voters here, there, and everywhere would have made it much closer. But to Mike's point, if we just go back without doing something, or finding out what the issues were, I think that wouldn't be wise. And I think
Yeah,
if we don't,
Phil,
go ahead.
Phil, in our last meeting, we kind of did a round table.
Yeah.
And I feel like we got a good sense of anecdotally what we collectively heard. And it boiled down to like 2, 3, maybe 4 big things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cost, location, alternative things people wanted to see money spent on, like fields as an example. Elena, we heard that last night, I think, a little bit. And then there's sort of I thought I had in the bag getting out the vote, which is purely an effort at the point of getting people to the polls that you want to vote, right?
Yeah.
Right, and
I say that because if we try the opportunity to find out why the no votes were no votes, you could spin your wheels quite a bit and lose quite a bit of time.
Yeah, I agree, but those questions are still out there that we need to address though, right? The communication side of it, location, cost, fields.
Well, I think it's a decision, right? So is location something that the building committee wants to look at again, sort of a yes, no? If it's yes, then there's action that could be taken, right? To look at location. Cost, I think we talked about it. We actually came away with the night, some thoughts from the last meeting on, well, what can we do about cost? Is there a viable option that costs less? We don't know, but that was sort of what we talked about at the select board meeting as well, and
Yeah.
getting funds, right, to design, et cetera. So if we can, there's not going to be an easy way to find out the no's aside from some of the things we talked about last time. I just caution spending too much time to figure out the no when we do have a beat on the no.
I think.
Okay,
I
so if you
think we
do,
could-
I think that's a good thing, and I think that things like location, as long as someone can really speak to some of those points. I mean, we all know the cost on this thing is high. The reality of it is that building costs are just high, and I think to get this and I don't what is acceptable, not trying to find that out, but I mean, the reality of it is that you can't get a senior center for $5 million, right? Phil and I did a math on the existing building. If we rebuilt the existing senior center, it would be like $3 million to build that building. And so I think that's something that you do have to speak to a little bit. I think you've just got to look at what's come up and have some sort of response. The other thing is that, is there kind of an order, the fire station, a new fire station, we might need a new fire station. What is the thought on a fire station? I mean, they just got one 10 years ago. Do they need one already? Why is that? And, has there been any thought about that? So I guess it's just, from my experience in doing these things, that stuff has to be put in some perspective to put a few people's minds to rest. so they become yes votes. You're not going to turn everybody around. There's no way. But you do have to find a way to get those yes votes out there.
Well, I do think we talked about that at the select board meeting, Mike. It's more of putting in context all the needs of the town in some coherent strategy, so they understand, people see the things they care about being addressed, maybe not tomorrow, but at some point in the future, right? Putting
Right.
some
And
order
that's
to
important.
those. And I
As
think
long as
that's
they know that there's some plan and somebody's thinking about all those other things and not just focusing on this, that can help get a few more yes votes.
Yeah, let me go back to some of the things we talked about at the select board meeting and other thoughts, Mike. You know, going back to, I think you're right. We probably have a category of why people didn't vote for it on the large
Bill,
project.
Bill, it's Karen. You have Carolyn that's had her hand raised for a little while. I don't know if you want to
Oh,
take
I'm
her
sorry.
question.
Go ahead, Carolyn. I'm sorry. I wasn't.
I know, that's okay. This is Carolyn Barthel. I just wanted to know, Phil, you and I talked about just looking who voted, period. Just has there been a look at the demographics of the voters? At least the demographics.
So I have a list. I got a list from the town clerk of who voted, but we haven't done any specific analysis. One thing we had not done ahead of the vote was put together a comprehensive list of who we knew to be supporters. For example, a lot of times campaigns will do that, and we didn't have that this time. We know who was sent postcards, and we can tell who voted, but we can't. We don't have a way of knowing how they voted. But I mean,
Sure.
certainly we do have a way to reach out to people who did vote, like if we want to, contact them. And I don't know what sort of demographic analysis you had in mind, Carolyn.
I was thinking of, where parents of kids in schools, was there much of a turnout about that compared to the seniors in town? I just am, I think it might be interesting. I'm not sure how informative it would be, but to understand who actually made the effort to vote one way or the other. And then I don't know if you would be able to draw really any conclusions, but at least we would know who cared enough to vote about this one way or the other. And it might be a useful piece of information. And if we want to, I'm not sure where to go with that. It would depend on what we would see. It's just a thought.
Mm-hmm. I mean, one thing that we can do is we know who regularly votes, and we can see, who didn't vote, for example, and see if there were any obstacles to them getting to the polls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, yes, there. I'm sure there are probably different ways that we could really kind of slice this, so it might be helpful. But it just would be it, and also who got the postcards and who didn't. There might be some. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out that who voted is a piece of information that we have, and we might be able to glean some information from that.
We could get the demographics from that based on age minimally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we could, by doing that, we could determine our number of household members. We could try to clean that. 18 and older. I don't know that we have the children anywhere on file.
Yeah.
So
No,
we could
that's not directly.
But going back to, I think we could do that, and that should be an activity that we probably wouldn't be too hard of a task, wouldn't be too horrendous. We could just take this slice and dice data for a day or two and come up with the information. And if we have anybody that's really strong on pivot tables, they could really do that well, quickly. Or the old color coding methods that I use when I get my pivot tables all screwed up and I just merge files.
I don't know. I'm not sure I know how to do that. Any of what, how to actually glean that information. But if there are ways that we can have Ellen run off, I don't know. I don't know what the capabilities are of our databases that we have for voters.
They're essentially raw list at this point. I don't think they have the analysis side of it.
I mean,
Okay.
I think Ellen has sent us what she has, Phil, right?
Yeah. I agree.
Okay.
And we have multiple lists, but we don't have, well, anyhow, I used to have like a database software that I used, but it kind of got, sorry, it's no longer cheap to use the database. So like now it's just, I use different Excel spreadsheets and merge them in different ways. But
Yep.
anyhow, there are certainly, the data is there and it can be extracted. So we have,
Okay.
we know who got postcards, and it was, I think there were about 1,600 postcards that went out reaching the homes of over 3,000 voters. But but not everybody really responds to snail mail, and everybody got the newspaper with the insert.
Yeah.
So so we don't know. We know who was sent things. We don't actually know who actually looked at them.
Yeah.
One of the things that touched upon, and I think, keeping in mind, I think we know what some of the core issues are, and how do you reach those folks is another issue, right? I think everybody's brought some good point up. So that's what I tried to take away. We gleaned from the meetings and input I received. We talked about a department meeting, and Dave brought this up at the select board meeting, having the acting TA have a department meeting for a reason to have a department meeting. One of the topics would be to talk about, with the select board, potentially some representatives being there, key committee people, and be able to talk about the priorities of the town. During the select board meeting, we still indicated that this is a top priority for the town, and try to get support from the department leads and how it's important that they work to support this effort, because their efforts are coming along the way too, and we're going to get synergy of all of us supporting each other. So, I mean, that was one thread that I took away that I think is a doable action. And if nothing else, we'd find pockets of resistance. If they are there, then we could address their needs with the capital planning effort that Mike's working on, or listen to them and hear their needs and identify where that sets in the priorities. The other thing we talked about is having the select board and the committee potentially have open houses to the audience, to the town. And I suggested maybe we have several town hall meetings in the town hall. We can get a BMI to record those minimally, and I think that's doable. I'm on that board, and they do the requests like that. It's not a crazy number. It'd be a handful of events that we'd want to record. And then the newspapers, we have 2 newspapers that go out, as I view them as news. Mendon Upton newspaper goes monthly. Amy publishes monthly. So if we alternated publishing, but expand Amy's to do the whole town, just not the seniors, which is a possibility, we could hit them with that. We do a postcard campaign, but do labels and be less labor intensive.
We did do labels.
Oh, okay. The most expedient way to get them turned around, I guess. And some of that would be contributions from a campaign committee. Some of it, I think, is factual information, but it's just factual information. So Mendon Upton News would be a reporter interviewing about facts. No mention of vote yes, just facts. The senior center newsletter could be the same thing. It would be just facts. So it's not campaign additive. And I see Carol. Carol, you have, yes?
I have one other thought. I don't know when, obviously we have to figure out what is the way, when to have a vote and meetings and things like that. But I think it would be useful if there are different constituencies in town, like, if we could do a PTO meeting or I don't know. I think bringing, not having just town meetings, but having, reaching out to specific groups in town if there are meetings that they have. I don't know. I mean, this is just outreach, and and you might be able to actually have smaller groups, but they might be more effective. People might be more forthcoming in how they feel about it than in a larger group.
I would agree. That's a possibility we could look at. I think Mike and Elena, you went to the committee on people trying to get fields and recreation facilities.
Yeah.
We did.
Any updates from that? Or how we could approach them?
They have a very specific plan that has to do with the high school at this point, and I think a lot of them are from Upton. But I have been in touch with some of the Mendon people in that group, and so they may be interested in getting involved with some of our Mendon activities.
I mean, the takeaway, Phil, there's going to be capital project competition coming from other areas that didn't exist last time. There was some, Elena, there was clear discussion. Senior center came up in the discussion, cost comparisons, 13 million for a senior center, and they were looking at 13 million for turf fields. So, there's going to be some very, very interesting discussions if these things come before the town. So I think, it's not unknown. We expected it. Even Maureen, the superintendent, she basically said, a school roof comes before fields in her eyes, and it's still a school project. You know what I mean? So there are even other things before the fields that might be presented by the school.
Oh, I think there should be. And I think all these things need to be weighed by the citizens.
I think you also have to be very clear on why this is an asset to the community and really what is the asset and what it does for the entire community, and not just seniors, but what the benefit is.
Yeah, it was interesting hearing the discussion about the fields and how the whole complex that we're talking about, the school's going to bring the community together as well. So I think we're going to find people basically picking their favorite, you know what I mean, when it comes up again. It'll be very interesting. It'll be a different dynamic.
How are the other department heads on it? I know obviously Dave's in favor of this project and supportive, but how are the other department heads?
Yeah, honestly, and Phil, I'm not sure. I'm not sure the focus on department heads is really should be a focus, to be honest. I'm not sure why the department heads, outside of the capital planning process, understanding priorities and agreeing to priorities. But
I guess I would like to see departments. I think Dave would, and Dave, you can speak to yourself. But I would see that the department would lead his people. We got a lot of pushback on the fire department, right? From fire department members via vocal pages on Facebook. Whether that's only one or two people, I'm not sure, because we don't know the whole population. But I think there's a disconnect. The members of the department weren't aware that I think the select board did give them some capital improvements, which is in the works coming from the ARPA money. And I just want the individual departments to pass to their employees that there is a process in town. It's all part of the priorities of the town, right? Is it fields? Is it senior centers? Is it schools? Is it fire stations? And what sequence do we go in as a town? Because we can't have them all at once. Right? And I want the
Well, and
department heads to understand that.
I think this speaks also to the master plan and how it would be good for their perhaps the select board could work with the planning board and the master plan committee to work on outreach about some of the goals of the master plan, since these are all, these are all included in the master plan, and
Mhm.
a new senior center was listed as a priority among other priorities.
Yep.
But I think communicating that we are working to implement the master plan, really get that message out there that this is part of the big picture.
Yeah, some of the voters I spoke to that voted no, and I said that was their prerogative. I didn't go one way, I didn't push on them. And everybody has their priorities. But a lot of it is because I don't think they knew where they fit in the chain of the view of the town leadership, right? So you're right, the master plan, getting people together, getting departments behind it, getting the citizens to know what the direction is. That's a big communications effort.
Yeah.
And just knowing that it's being addressed by somebody, or that it's on the capital planning, which we're doing, Mike, and this working group, is a very good topic, but how many people know that's going on? Besides the select board and a few of us.
If I can just add one thing, I'm thinking also about parents and how, so as Mike, as you were talking about fields, but you're also talking about the senior center, but how can parents of kids benefit from this community center that we would have? If you can emphasize having the scouts meet there, or other 4-H kids meet there, or other kids that will benefit from this center that are not seniors. I think we need to kind of also recognize, appeal to that aspect of it. How can other demographics in town benefit from this?
So, Carolyn, I agree with you. I just do want to point out that there was a communications and outreach group. So that was Peg and Karen and Tom, and they did an amazing job reaching out to so many of these groups. But I think that it can continue, and I think you're right that these are the groups that maybe they need to be reached more than once. And if we can get more people involved, because I know they did a phenomenal job talking to dozens of groups, going to, so many meetings.
Great.
And I think, so I just want to point that out because I know, we really appreciate all that they did. And I think they were doing the right thing, and it's maybe more of that would be.
Yeah, I didn't mean to, I have to, I'm just bringing my current energy into it.
Yes.
And I,
Wait.
not disagreeing with anybody, or not denigrating anybody's previous efforts, because it takes a tremendous amount of effort to pull this off. And so any outreach that you did was excellent, and maybe we could do more of it.
And I'd love to see your energy, and you can help us do more.
Yes.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. So, but going back to the point, we're going around, I think, a bit now. So how do we proceed from here? What we've committed as a committee was to go back to the select board in early July with a outline and a plan that we should be all beginning to get some synergy on. How do we move forward? And I threw these notes and ideas out there just as ideas, and I threw timeline out there just to say, how can we implement these timelines? And going back to Mike's earlier point, maybe it's like when you watch some of these house shows, which ones you're going to buy, right? I forgot what they're on HGTV, but you eliminate some of them. You narrow the choices. And maybe that's where we need to be. How do we narrow those choices down based on what we know today? And how do we proceed with putting importance around our feelings as a committee? Do we go for the special town meeting? Do we go for November? what are our concerns? I've got a lot of concerns going to May because we just keep going. And the costs just go up.
Cost, it strikes me cost is one piece that I don't know. If you have some costs, great, but if there's anything else, it would be useful to understand the rest of the picture in terms of costs.
I think we had a fair amount of cost as we designed the program, right? The only way I see cutting costs, that Mike elaborated in one of his notes, was that if you knock out 2,000 square feet, it's about $1 million a square foot.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize, Phil. I meant cost of actually having the vote, and not talking about the building itself.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I see that. Yeah, the costs are going to be. I mean, there's a rough cost where we're saying $6,000 an event to do it.
Okay.
And if you do 2 events, a town meeting and an election, that's some number more, up to maybe $12,000 or $10,000, $10,000 to $12,000.
Okay.
That's the cost to the town.
It may not be
not-
that much. I mean, I wouldn't worry about, I mean, if the committee feels a special election is warranted based on timing, to call it out, make it a singular vote on one specific issue, if there's benefit to that, I don't see the cost of a special election being overwhelming, Elena. I think we should
I
be
would
able
agree.
to do that. So I wouldn't let because every selection is going to have at least an additional ballot, I think, Elena, for the,
Right. Oh,
yeah.
I agree. I think the lead up time is probably going to be a bigger constraint than the cost of the administrative costs. I think,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, I think because
Okay.
there's so much work to be done, as people have said, with outreach in so many directions. So
And given the focus on outreach and communication, Elena, I think September is not feasible.
that's my impression also, that there's
Summer-
so
summer's
much
not-
work that needs
summer's
to be
tough.
done. And it's not even just by, right, there's work that needs to be done in order to get it onto the ballot. So I think there's the August 15th deadline. And, effectively, a lot of us have travel plans this summer. So it's a very challenging time.
And I think
And I
August
think,
is the deadline for November as well, isn't it, Elena?
what's
So the-
that?
Is August also a deadline to get a question on
Oh,
Neil? I think
it
is.
might have been. But
There's more runway for communication.
there's more runway, right, before the actual vote. But it's still tight. I mean, it felt like, even with this vote, we were rushing from, February to May.
Well, the difference though, Elena, I would venture to say, I think if we made it 13 million, 13.2 or 11.2 or 10.2, the people who don't want a tax increase don't want a tax increase. That's my own opinion.
Mhm.
So, and a lot of our time to get to February was defining the cost and getting the building design. So if we have something that's pretty much, say, 95% there, and maybe we make some other decisions about locations to make sure it's 95% there. I don't think we have as much work to do at heavy lifting because we were still struggling with that
Mhm.
with 2 months left.
I agree. I mean, I think November, for example, I think that's a reasonable amount of time. I'm just not convinced that September is.
I'm not sure about September either, because if I look at optimistically, if we could turn the crank tomorrow and say, okay, we're going to target all this communication activities, we're going to look at some redesign activities, we're going to do all this outreach. That's not a lot of time. And I think the problem is not so much maybe the committee or our own personal efforts, but we need more recruits. We had a band of, 8, 10 people, working hard and fast, but we had a lot of ground to cover. We need a bigger group. So we need some recruiting and So November, I think is reasonable. I think we go beyond November, quite frankly. I think it's gonna miss it. I think the cost is gonna be an implication. We're gonna be $1 million, if we say we're gonna build apples and apples. If we build the same building, it's gonna be not 13.2, it's gonna be 14.5. So, and the price just goes up. And then we get more competing interests from a capital plan, and maybe we just say it is what it is, and we jettison all the non-senior activities, and that's it. That's my own personal opinion.
But if you see, the thing that strikes me about November is when you say it's 95% done, then you're suggesting no significant changes to design to reduce cost.
Correct.
If you're suggesting redesign to reduce cost, then November becomes a challenge. You're up against a window.
But if
Because
you
you
go to
can't communicate anything, right? Because you don't know what it is yet. So
well, I
there's
guess,
there's sort of a chicken and the egg thing here. So if you're going to focus on November, then you're sort of locking into 90-10. What we went with in May is what we're going to go with in November. Pretty much.
I guess the reason I'm saying that is because our vote was so close.
Yeah, so I think there'll be a dynamic though. I mean, I lean towards May because I feel like you're going to get put back on what are you trying to push through outside of the normal big meeting, right? Is it trying to sneak something in? Not necessarily, but I think there'll be that perception. I think you'll get a harder no vote by people that are targeting the annual town meeting because their piece isn't, regardless of our communication, their piece is in jeopardy in May because we're trying in November. So there's a lot of, I think there's a dynamic to
the dynamics, I think, is still there in May because then you're going to be competing with multiple capital programs. And then the question to the select board is now, not in May, what are the priorities as you see it?
Well, the priorities, you spoke to priorities, Phil, and I can speak for myself. The priorities, do we need a senior center? Yes. Is that a priority? Yes. Do we know what else is even coming? No. So every time you talk to me about a priority, it's based on what I know. That's
my point.
Change based as things come forward. So
I agree. And I agree. The longer the window, we know that there's pending things out there, the longer the window that's open, right? The more things will come up and perceived as safety or children or education are going to become higher priorities again, as they always have been with the senior center.
Well, I mean, once again, I'm speaking for myself, not the board. I know things are coming, and I would prefer to see what's coming and make a collective decision on all things together than dagger. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, I understand. And I that's a valid opinion. It's a valid approach, Mike. And it'd be better to see all things coming. But at the end of the day, the funding that we have as a community, based on the tax rate we have, the 26 to 36 million dollars worth of debt exclusion we're going to need to cover all the projects if they all come in top priority one, will push things 3, 4, 5, 6 years out. I don't know. I guess that's. Go ahead, Carol.
I would like some clarification. So when you're talking about November versus May, are you talking about next May, a year from now?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Well, then at that point, then you're talking about another $1 million. That's what you'd said, Phil. So it's going to cost another $1 million. So
if we build the same building.
Right. Well, I want that building.
Well, there are alternatives, Scott. We could take a look and say, are we building a community center or are we building a senior center?
Well, I think we also talked about, Phil, even in the last meeting, I believe the response was the first floor of that building is something the senior center could get by with, and we could look to finish the rest down the road, right?
Yeah, but that's a very minuscule savings, Mike.
I don't know, because I haven't seen the numbers. That's the thing, is we've never taken, I mean, I haven't seen, last time we talked about this, Phil said, do we need to see what a $9 million, $12 million, you know what I mean? What do we get for those price tags? And
yeah,
the committee it's not to do that, that's fine. But then I'm not sure why we need redesign funding because we're going with the same design.
Well, I guess the only thing, the redesign. Agreed. We may not need.
From my opinion, you're only gonna redesign if you're gonna really try to cut this thing, financially, and that's the only reason to redesign it. And you've really got to find, $3 million in this building or more.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last part.
I said that, my opinion is that if you're going to do a redesign, then you've really got to say we're committing to try to find $3 to $4 million in this building, and what does that look like?
Right. I mean, honestly,
I think
the psychological,
I'm
Mike,
sorry.
for me was when we went from $1 million to double-digit $1 million. As soon as we crossed that 10 million threshold with the multiple designs, I kind of held my breath because I said that's psychologically that's it's psychological, like the difference between 9 and 10. You know what I mean? And I think I hear about people. So.
Do you think, though, now at this point, since the $10 million has been out there, do you think if it goes up again at 9 million or 8 million or 8.5 million, do you think that would make a difference?
I would, in the sense that it demonstrates that for those people that it was too much money, even some, we all heard some people said, I can't afford it. It demonstrates due diligence on the committee's part to say, we heard you and here's another option. Now, we don't need to stick with it. But I think to go back with the same design and go at it again and rely on communication. I mean, operational overrides aren't very well received when we've gone back a second time with the same dollar without really changing things. You know what I mean? That's all.
Yeah.
Right. So
Right.
realistically, if you're going to find $2 million, you really got to find 3, because by the time in a year we're going to have a million in escalation, and that's fine. I think that's what if you're going to do a redesign, you got to make a major run at this and really reduce it to get down to a number that's really palatable.
And then we go to the discussion of the first floor as a one-story building, jettison food pantry, potentially jettison emergency shelter, and reduce the community service activities. So, and that's the choice. We build a senior center.
Say that again, please. What would be gone?
Well, if you, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but if we knock out $3 to $4 million from the building, and we make it a single floor, the upper floor, which Amy's identified as critical to running a senior center, multifunction room, and the other pieces there, we would knock out.
It's not going to be a single floor, Phil. Just so don't be saying that, because that site does not allow for a single floor.
Okay,
That's
let me take.
So it will always have a walkout. Now maybe it doesn't get built. The lower level doesn't get built out, but that site will always have a building that's configured this way. But there's really several thousand square feet that could come out of that building. It does mean things like the food pantry, which if you generally look at senior centers, that's not something that's part of a senior center, right? So is this trying to be all things to all people, or is it a senior center? And then so it's looking at that. I don't think you can do that now, but it's really going back and looking at the program and understanding what can come out, and then let us design a building, because the site is going to dictate that building to a certain degree. It just is.
Theoretically,
it's a great site, except we are building $1 million worth of roadway to get into that building. That's the other thing. It's a beautiful site, but it does require, and that roadway really is serving that entire site. So any other development on that site benefits from that roadway. But again, it's cost, regardless of what it is, it's cost.
So it's $1 million for the driveway because we already reduced it. It's not being built to code, right, Mike? We already cut $1 million to make it not a road,
Well,
right?
it's still, whether it's $1 million or, 700,000, it's a substantial number, right? To build versus if this site was sited on an existing town road and we're just building a curb cut into a parking lot, you've got some major cost there. And we did outline that when we did the estimate. And then we did reduce it by making it a driveway and not a roadway.
Right.
But then the sidewalk got put back in, because you want to be able to have people able to walk into the site without walking in the driveway. So then you're back to curbs and so, it's hard to just get rid of things. But that site is a beautiful site, but it does drive some cost. But walkout basements are nice. It's nice space. Now, we typically, if it was a flat site, it would be a slab on grade. It would not have a basement. So,
could I ask?
There's some of that stuff.
Could I ask my question again? Because the conversation has developed farther. So what would we lose? The food pantry and what other pieces, Phil?
Well, it's hard to tell at this point, but community service activities would be reduced.
It's really not what we lose. You basically have to say we're going to lose several thousand square feet of building, and then would have to say what items are most important to the committee and the senior center that we need to maintain in the building. Certainly that large multi-purpose room would have to be reduced in size. So that would be capacity. And that was one of the real desires of the project.
That was the driver.
Yeah.
That was the driver for the footprint.
I have a question. Could the food pantry actually go to the current senior center and have that be the whole focus of that building? I'm just asking. I mean, I know that Parks and Highway both have their eyes on that building, but I'm just throwing it out. I mean, if you're going to take the food pantry away from this proposal, then you got to put it someplace else.
But if you have it's not clear to me you can't have the food pantry because it's essentially what we have today, right?
Right. And also the staffing of the food pantry would need to be considered as well.
Yes, I was just going to say that.
Yeah, I think we could take a look at if we had funding and approval to spend some money, we could look at what we would get from a programmatic standpoint of reducing the size. We could take this exercise for another year, but my gut tells me, and that's my personal opinion, is that we're not going to wind up with a facility that's going to last us long enough again. My gut tells me that 5 to 10 years from now, we'll be saying we need an expansion to the building. And I have a hard time with that, but that's a personal thing. That's not a committee thing.
Phil, let me ask a question to Mike then. If we were to build a 10 to 15 year building, knowing we need to expand 10 to 15 years down the road, would that affect design in your mind?
We could easily, though, Mike, design a building that is designed for expansion. In fact, oftentimes we do that and design the expansion so that we know where it's going to go and what would be in there and what would roughly happen, so that's been planned. That's not out of the question, I don't think.
I feel like, and well, then the other subsequent question, Mike, would be when you do that type of design, given the design we have at 13, right? If we were to take that approach, saying we know this is going to be an immediate, it'll address our immediate needs, and we know expansion in 10 years, 15 years, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
Would that type of design would it bias anything in terms of cost for this vote? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it would. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
And Phil, and then we put that to the
Mike,
voters, you know what I mean? And we'll build in the, step one, phase one, phase two in 10 years, but we have that in the capital plan and we plan.
My basic concern though, and I guess maybe we go back to site, maybe we need a different site. And I don't want to do that, but if we could. My basic concern is the multifunction room upstairs was a driver for a lot of the footprint. In addition to the
Uh-huh.
fact that we needed the rooms and facilities for the privacy and HIPAA rules and everything else we needed, the other building, the rest of the upper floor. That dictated a footprint that said, here's programs that Amy needs to run, and here's the size of facility to run those programs. The basement became the bonus because of the topography of the land. So if you start to shrink that top part and you say the multifunction room doesn't hold 125 people, it holds 60 or 70 people, you're not far off of where you're at from right now. And you're then back to the reconfiguring rooms constantly. And you're losing all the
Yeah, there is a
efficiency of the
certain
original
amount of-
buildings. So,
There's a
you know,
certain amount
I
of-
agree, that would be good. But that downsize could get to a point of, you know, we're building the same building we have today with improvements for office and privacy, but we're not getting anywhere. That's my concern. If that makes
And I
sense,
think
I'm
what you
sorry.
also have to realize is that the most expensive parts of the building are the systems, and all the systems are going to be there for this building. That's really the hardest part. So unless you really reduce the building by a third, then all the systems can reduce. It's hard to get it to reduce. We run into this where people think, well, I can just take X amount of square feet out and use my square foot cost, and it goes down. And it doesn't, because the systems don't reduce enough when you just take 1,000 square feet, or you really have to, like I said, reduce this building by a third, and then you have to ask yourself, is that enough space to warrant building the building? But it could. You know, we've done senior centers that have multi-purpose rooms that are really 2 rooms that get opened up when there's like a big dinner or something. So it could be an addition that's designed, that's part of expansion down the road, that's in addition to the multi-purpose room too. So again, anything is possible. I think it would be good to target what you think is a number so we can really comfortably get there. And if it's 8 million or 7.5, I don't think 7.5 is going to be a tough one, but I think 8.5, 9. But
9.99999.
Under 2 digits is the one that Mike likes.
let's just put
And,
a dirt
you know, if we
path
charted
up
you
there.
off to go do that, Mike, with some conversations with, obviously, Amy and the staff, my concern, if the multipurpose room is an addition after the initial build to be able to accommodate, you know, then I'd have to ask the question of why are we doing it?
Yeah.
And that's for
But
you folks to decide.
if we do it, we get not much further than we already are, except a proper handicap accessibility that's usable. And you have more than 3 people in the kitchen and some of those niceties, and you have offices where people can get medical procedures where you don't have now. I mean, that would be nice. But we still can't, we still be turning people away at major events.
Well, we have elevator built into this, right? Obviously ADA
Of course,
accessibility,
yes,
right?
of course.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd be kind of curious. So the room, Phil, you're talking about at the back, I'm just picturing it in my head, is the room, the back, we walk off onto the balcony, you can, you know, at the back of the building. That's the multi-purpose room you're talking about, right?
Correct, with that sliding, dividing,
Right.
divided, yes.
I remember the design. Then you've got individual offices sequenced between the front entrance on each side, going back to that
No.
room in one hallway.
You have
I mean,
program
There's
rooms on the
like an
right side.
office. There's an office suite at the front on the left as you come in the door.
Yeah.
And then between that and going to the big room in the back, you've got big multi-user restrooms.
Yep.
You've got the elevator, the stair down, and then the kitchen is there to serve the multi-purpose room. The 2 places that I question that could potentially, then there's the library, which is like a program space. But then if you downstairs, there's that other big meeting room, and then there's the food pantry, which both equal about 2,000 to 2,500 square feet. Oh, there you go. So if you look at the lower plan, there's a lot. I mean, half of the lower level is dedicated to the food pantry, and then there's that other big program room. if,
Phil, this is
reducing the
us.
size of this a bit.
You see this?
Yeah, Phil, but this is the one where it has the full basement. So the latest ones had the
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah,
the
the left-hand side was just a slab now, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
but just
Yeah.
assume that we have this.
Yeah.
Knock off
so
this
yeah,
piece
and
of it.
some of that, so I think that, there is possibility here. I think it's all in, but it's what do we give up, right? And so that is always the question. The problem, and so if we were to make the building smaller, there's a couple of program spaces on the upper level that could go to the lower level. And so you kind of take the building, I'm going to turn on my camera so you can
And
see
you
me,
kind of stack
but
it,
you
right?
kind of take the building, compress it.
Right, and you
and-
stack some of
and-
those rooms.
Mhm. And I think it's worth making a run at that and real quick to see, and I'll do this before we even get involved with any more, just to see what that does. Very roughly for the committee, not for overall town consumption, and run the numbers on it just to see if it makes a difference.
And then things like the food pantry, I'm just kind of curious, is the square footage there, does that match what we have today? Or it looks probably like more space than we have in
There's more
today's?
There's
It
more
does
Not
space.
really, because if you look at the amount of storage, they
Uh-huh.
have a food in the basement over there.
Yeah.
And then where the space they use it to and currently they have no place for people to pick up. So the idea was trying to create a food pantry,
Mm-hmm.
but with its own entrance. But it meant, again, because of the numbers, there may have to be some of that goes away.
Maybe the entrance for the time being might be the walkout underneath the deck on the back, right?
Right, yeah.
And it
Well,
may
you
not be
need-
finished, it may not be finished, but it's functional.
Right, and now do you need that other big meeting room for town access? So there's a lot of money invested that, we need to create that big meeting room can be used without the rest of the center being accessed by public. You just don't want the public running through this building after hours.
So like I would say day one, if that bottom half wasn't finished, you still had the entrance there, right? In the back.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
you don't have a finished room for community use. I mean, Phil, maybe
Yeah,
that's part of
then-
it, just saying we have a senior center, we've got, we can look down the road to finish. And I think Dave had his hand up early, but I know Dave has suggested some of that stuff could be done after the fact in multiple phases to finish
And we
the
did
bottom.
run numbers on that, Mike, and it comes out to less than $1 million, but it's still in the magnitude of $500,000 to $750,000. And
That's
when you're
not
trying to get below 10 million, you know what, it matters.
right.
So I think it's worth looking at some of that. So, and just running the numbers on a couple of scenarios that way, just to see if it really makes a difference. I think you're not going to get more than $1 million to 2 million out of this thing unless you really chop a big chunk of it off.
Yeah, that's what I envisioned on our discussions. But I mean, we can run some numbers and see what the exercise is. Remember, if we run the numbers, we push it out until next May, we're going to gain another $1 million just in inflation.
You gain $1
costs.
million by going out to next May automatically.
So
Yeah. If you were to whittle away a little bit of what you're talking about, that would be, Mike, it strikes me as that would be a good faith effort to reduce the cost of the building, but still minimize the functionality, maximize the functionality of the building.
And I think that's a very
lose
good
community.
point. There has to be good faith here. There has to be good faith. You have to do something.
Yeah.
Then other than just present the same thing.
I would agree
In
with
my
that.
Yeah.
Can we do this now? I'll challenge the team again. So we don't have the incremental cost of $1 million. And if we challenge folks, can we get this done for the November timeframe? Because I believe if we go to May, it gets fuzzier.
So it's not, if we go to the May special sorry, not the November
No.
special town meeting, we do have the option of having the election be after that. I mean, it's,
The town.
I think
town
there's a
meeting.
time frame of days, like it wouldn't have to be everything by the special town meeting date. It's just another
But to
option
get-
to consider. We could have a special town election, after the November election, but before May.
Yeah, we have 90 days to get it in.
Yeah, I guess we can play all those options. But I still think that, I'll go back to the fact we lost by 52 votes. We didn't have enough time to get the vote drive out. We missed a couple opportunities. So, and the cost of doing this add-on 10 years from now, and maybe we do need to spread the peanut butter, and I understand that. And if that's the choice, we can go do that. But if we wait too long, I'm worried. And at that point, should we not just look at our existing building and reduce what we do there? Although we can't support the needs today there. So let's not do that. Sorry, that's emotion speaking. We can't support the needs of the town, the seniors at that existing building.
Okay, I need to say something. Can you hear me at all? Yes,
Yes.
you can. Okay. First of all, being a communications committee, I've stressed to all of the clubs that I spoke to, especially I filled it at the Lions, to have a designated spot for community groups to use.
Yeah.
And we had talked about space at the local level. I don't really want to see giving that up. I mean, because now we've already told people what we plan to do, and yes, we want to lower the amount. I like his idea of on the first floor of maybe, moving some of those areas here closer. And maybe we have to reduce the size of the large room. But if this is going to be, we have to make the decision, is it a community building or is it a senior center? And if it's a community building, and we've already gone out and told people there's going to be space available for the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts or whatever, I don't really want to go back on my word.
Well, I don't have a problem going back. We say you don't have that space anymore because we knocked out $3 or $4 million.
But it's not gonna, I don't think he said it was gonna knock out $3 or $4 million. Did you, Mike Petrovic?
I don't think we're gonna knock out 3 or 4 million. I think we're gonna get to 2 to 2.5 million, and then we're gonna add $1 million. So I think you're gonna be at 1.5 to 2. Yeah, and with a smaller building.
Okay,
I mean, I think the nature of the community usage, Peg, is also going to be similar to what it is today. So even though the senior center today doesn't even meet the seniors' needs, other groups still use it, right? So that multi-purpose room that could be divided in two is not being used 100% of the time, right? That could still be available for use for Lions or Boys, whoever, right? So you're not eliminating, we're not necessarily expanding it either. Does that make sense?
Yes, except that originally we wanted people to not be able to access that top floor. That was particularly for the seniors and all the information that Amy and her staff have of a personal nature and things. That's why we liked where it was downstairs. I don't know. And the only other thing I'll say, and I probably should have said it earlier, was we were remiss, I guess, somebody pointed it out to me at the selectmen's meeting that we should have had poll workers there watching who came in and voted. And we should have had a list, which is similar to what someone else said. And by 5 o'clock in the afternoon, people who we expected to vote that hadn't arrived there, we probably should have made that effort there, but I wasn't aware of it. I wasn't aware that you could do this. This is my first foray into the political jungle.
Yeah, a couple rookies, Peg.
What?
Couple rookies, you and I both.
Well,
That's okay.
you get what you pay for. You pay for nothing. All right, I'm going to shut my mic off.
Okay, thanks for your input, Peg. Okay, we're stretching this longer than I wanted to. Have we made any decisions at all? Let's circle back. It's time to make some decisions. Do we want Mike to take a look at what he can do with reduced footprint and no basement build out? And try to get to a number around 9.999.99.
I would suggest you come up with a number and let us take a run at it and see how we can come with some options. So here's a couple options that'll get you to the number you want to get to. Is it, and just come up with a number and let us work to it.
Well, then I go to Mike, I have no number feeling on this building, but that's me. You have a strong feeling on it. What's your recommendation for a number for Mike?
Me?
Throw out to the committee. And then we'll see if we can coalesce around it.
I would try not to go north of maybe 10.5, something like that. Just it shows a significant percentage reduction in cost. I mean, I think we're going to be over. I'm kind of curious too. Where does the extra million come from? Like, what's driving the $1 million cost increase we keep citing?
Escalation.
It's inflation.
Year over year.
Yeah, it's not yearly
Inflation or escalation.
We use 5% year over year because that's what inflation has been in the construction industry. So statistics show that, and that's what we've seen.
Right. And that's over what period of time, like the 5%?
It's about 12 months, about a year. So we ran these numbers in March.
Right.
So, you've got, next March, April, I mean, maybe you won't, but you can't plan on that you won't.
No, but you could index any sort of, I mean, I think it's fair to index it to inflation if that's what you're doing. But I think
it's going to be based on the construction market and how busy things are. So, you can index it to inflation for sure. What ends up happening is that, especially in Massachusetts, because it's all prevailing wage rates, it's the numbers come in higher. But 5% is a worst case.
Okay.
But for now, at this level of number, I think you have to plan on it. And what we typically do is there might be a few items that ultimately in the end are out there as alternates. And if the numbers actually come in a little lower, you get a couple more things.
Yeah, but you can't drive to that lower number. You'll be in the same place the chief was.
No, you don't want to drive the lower number, Phil. You're driving to the higher number. And then
you got to drive to
is actually designed and goes to bid and comes in and it's less, you get a couple of items that you were leaving on the sideline.
Or we reduce the overall expense of the building, but by being more conservative. But anyway, I hear you either way. Yeah, we don't want to.
You're going to have people running numbers at you, Phil. So when you say $1 million at 5% on 13.2, that's more. Isn't that really closer to 600? People would round it down to $500,000 for purposes.
But that's the construction material stuff. Then you need the contingencies to get built on.
Yeah, I mean, I think guys, you got to remember.
I'm just doing 5% on top of the total bill. I'd just be really careful with the communication because we got, because people heard us talk about the tax impact just in early stages. Right. That became a thing. You know what I mean?
I guess what I would do, I asked Mike to take a look at that number and break his breakout of the building cost, contingency, inflation, and also the discretionary stuff, just the way you have it today, Mike. And then we'll see what the numbers are. And I agree, the 5% may not be the exact number, but if you look at all those factors on those other elements that are percentages of the construction cost, it adds up. The construction cost goes up 5%, but the ancillary things also go up.
Right.
But that's okay. Mike, why don't you, we can run a number for, what's the team feel about 10.5?
I was gonna, can you hear me okay, Phil?
Yeah.
I was gonna say somewhere between 10 and 11 if we go for November, because we are already out $500,000 if we go November. If we go, and I know we just argued about those numbers, but back in 2018 when we dragged our feet at the police station, we lost $100,000 worth of value a month. So I don't know how we're not at least losing that now with construction costs. You know, we had to come up with an extra 1.5 million because we dragged our feet for 12 months. It was actually more than a million. But I think already we're behind the 8 ball. We're gonna have to cut just because of time. So we're gonna cut just for the sheer reason of we didn't get it approved. So we have to lose stuff just to stay at the 13.2. But if we're gonna be, do something dramatic, then we have to, I think we have to push quick. We have to pull ahead. We have to keep pushing for this fast now, and then we have to make the cuts now. So we have to use that money that we need to do the renovations and figure this out now, because I think we wait till May, we might as well stick a fork in it and we're done. I don't think it's gonna happen.
I have
Okay.
a question also. My question is what about these funds that we've been applying for? You have to have a project in order to get them. Is that correct, Elena? Like that letter that we wrote in support?
Right, for the earmark. So so Congress will be voting this summer. So we may hear, and if that comes through, I think that would be a good selling point. Like, I think that could be applied to this project. But we won't, right, we'll know by the end of the summer.
Okay, and
So-
also, there was, funding that, Senator Murray, Representative Murray was working on, but that hadn't passed the Senate, I don't believe. The state Senate, I think it had only
Right.
passed the House. Because wasn't that like about 100,000?
It was 100,000.
I'm just worried about anything that we could possibly be using to offset some of the money if we lose it because we have a project. I'm kind of agreeing with the chief. That I think by next May, people are going to say, you had your turn. You had your turn and you didn't get it. Anyway,
This is Carolyn. I like the idea of going for slightly less than what we asked for. We asked for 13.2, and if we could get it down to around 11 or something like that, I think that that's a good faith effort in trying to decrease the costs for people, but not completely obliterating all the things that we want to accomplish.
Okay, so I'm hearing consensus around the 10.5 to 11, that range, 10 to 11.
I agree. I think that's a good target, and I'm also in favor of trying to push for, the November special town meeting for a vote, whether we decide to figure out how to piggyback the vote onto the state/federal election or do a separate election. I feel like if there is at least a lot of lead time, I mean, there's lead time because I think we have momentum now in terms of outreach. People have heard of the project in a way that they hadn't heard. A lot of people had not heard about this until the election, and now there's definitely a lot more awareness.
Okay.
And I know, another thing that I thought about is I remember like what a shock it was for all of us when we first heard that 13.2 million.
Yep.
And then we sort of got used to it. So I think if we can additionally bring that number down, I think for the people who have sort of come to accept the 13.2 million, it'll be like an even easier sell. Well, I mean, not easier, sorry. But I know I did speak to even people who supported the project who said they weren't convinced that it needed to be as big as it was. Like they still voted yes, but maybe they were lukewarm and not like actively supporting it. And maybe if we can turn around some of those sort of lukewarm supporters to like advocates for the project, that would also help us, get some of those 52 votes.
I think along those same lines, Phil, the communication should be based solely on the building, not the grounds. So I think feedback I heard was, when they heard pickleball, basketball courts, bocce, things like that, even though it was CPC funds, right? There was some concern, like, what's that all about for, quote, a senior center? And you're like, so the message might, if we focus just on the structure, the building, the senior center, and,
I agree.
your community center, because we've already appropriated those funds, I believe. All those
Yeah,
votes.
they're set for, yeah, Ann will keep those for a while, so if we do
Yeah,
get
well,
successful.
they got to be voted back, so she can't just take it away. So once it's appropriated, it's sitting there. I don't think you
Yeah.
need to address that for this go round.
Right. So we don't have to address it. You're right. So let's go for, do I have anyone motion that we go for a proposal from Mike for somewhere between 10, 5 and 11, Mike? Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second?
Elena, I suggest you vote this meeting. Because
All right.
I'm a
All right, I'll second.
Okay. We're gonna have to go through a roll call. All in favor? Elena?
Rugos, aye.
Peg?
Aye.
Dave?
Kersey, aye.
Bill? Aye. Anybody else out there on the committee?
Bokino, aye.
Thank you, Mark. Missed you. Sorry. Okay. The ayes have it. The motion passes.
Wait a minute,
Second
did you get
motion, I would
everybody?
like,
Karen? Did you get
I'm sorry?
everybody? You got Karen and you got Mark?
we got Mark.
Did you get them? You did, and Karen?
They're not voting members, they're volunteer
I'm
members.
not a voting member.
Okay, I meant Carol, I meant, Karen. I meant Karen.
We
Okay,
don't have Tom and we don't have Mike with us tonight. Well,
all right,
Mike, I mean, is the only other voting member missing, and we don't have Lonnie.
okay.
So we're only
okay.
missing 2, but we have 4 or 5, I think. So the motion passes. The second one, would anyone like to make a motion to target and plan for the November timeframe for this effort to be brought to the citizens?
I'll make that motion to target the plan for November.
Do I have a second?
Second. Kersey, second.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All in favor?
We'll do,
Roll call.
well, we need a roll call again. Elena,
Rugos, aye.
Peg,
Aye,
Mark,
Bokino, aye.
Dave,
Kersey, aye.
Sipley, aye. Okay. A side discussion. Mike, well, this is a side discussion. This is not a side discussion. Do we have funds to engage? We talked about potential funds to engage Petrovic to do some design work for us. Do we have funds in our available cash? We have no budget left in the committee.
I think Amy and I have spoken, and there is some money for the senior center. She'll probably give you her input on that, but I believe there is a small amount of money I've left over from a previous project. Amy, do you want to address that, please? She's still,
There's about $10,000 left over from our furnace, the windows, and actually, I think maybe the last building project, the last time we had maybe Catlin Petrovic, we didn't use all the funding then. So there's about $10,000 in those separate funds.
I think we've identified funds, or we can get you funds, Mike, if I could get you to begin to look at what these
Yeah.
numbers would mean to us.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
Amy, we need to work with Jody probably to make sure what kind of funds you have, and if they fit, and if they don't, we will go back to grovel to the select board.
So I think what we might want to do too, for sake of speed, especially before July 1,
Mhm.
I am not sure you'll be able to access the funds from previous projects without money movement, but Jody will confirm that, right?
Okay.
If not, Phil, I might suggest, and maybe Elena, this is for the 26th, we tap FinCom reserves, which has about $70,000 in it. That will go to free cash come July 1. but we might be able to tap that, and then ARPA might be a fallback after that, but all of those votes could take place on the 26th.
Okay, it sounds like
so-
we have a. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it would be good to know by the 26th and what the amount requested.
Yeah,
I can definitely get that to Phil by then.
and we should get,
It won't come anywhere near that.
and we should get, I'll talk to Jody tomorrow. So Amy, if you reach out to Jody, I'll let her know you're coming, saying,
Yep.
are you meeting with us tomorrow? And Elena, if you'd like, I can reach out to Mike Krager if all those avenues seem to be stalled.
Yeah.
Know that maybe on the 26th, we might need a FinCom reserve vote.
Right. I mean, I think we probably would need FinCom to be on board with that. So like, see if they could have a meeting as well. Yeah, that would be great if you could reach out to them.
Okay, good.
Okay, I just want to be sure I understand what you're saying. So are we like borrowing money from FinCom until Amy can get our funds released? Or is this completely, we're just gonna try to get FinCom money?
No strings attached, I would say. I mean,
No, okay,
because all of the FinCom reserves big are going to go to free cash come July 1 anyway if they don't expend them, and then it comes back around for allocation or appropriation. And I think
Right,
even the money that from completed projects, Jody probably would want to move back to, you know, the general fund anyway for reappropriation.
I see, I see. All right,
But
well,
we
thanks
would-
for the clarification.
But
Okay,
we
so
would
it's a
need
vote
to
with-
get all the finance a majority of the finance committee on board as well as the select board. So it's
Question
an
I might
ask.
get
It's
for
not, I mean, I feel like there's a good chance because both committees supported the project, but it's a new ask.
Yes. It's new,
Yeah,
it's
just-
new funding. It's most-
Mike, I know you're going to get Phil a firm number, but do you have a ballpark that if I'm asked, what it might look like?
Yeah, let me just talk amongst yourselves. Let me just do a quick calculation.
Can I ask something? We're in the process of doing the 2-month summer newsletter, and Peg just put together a nice write-up about, you know, the results for the June issue, for the results of the election. Do you want to have something in the summer issue just so that, you know, people will be kind of expecting something?
Absolutely. No, well, I'm not sure exactly what, but something we want there.
So we need it by Friday.
Do we
Okay.
want to solicit feedback, Phil?
Yeah, I think the feedback is what we need. Do you want to
Maybe-
set up our first meetings and start to get feedback? Give
Well,
them
I'm saying
channel the
if
feedback?
you got the summer issue, any feedback or, you know, send it to an email address just to start the collection process, you know?
Yeah,
Okay.
you would
But
really
you
want to
can
reach
help
out.
Write something.
I'm sorry.
I was asking if Peg could help write something, just a brief paragraph, but so feedback.
No, I can do that. You want it by Friday, right?
Yeah, we can
Okay.
decide where you want feedback to go, if you want it to go maybe to the friends or.
Well, we have COA tomorrow, so why don't we
Yep,
talk
yep,
about
yep,
it? then?
yep. Yeah. and
I
so
I
we
would
get
send it
town
to the
hall
COA
too.
if you would.
You do what?
I would send it to the COA mailbox, or they could send it to Peg or myself. I don't really care.
It's too bad the committee doesn't have a mailbox. The committee doesn't have a mailbox, I don't think, do we?
No,
No, they're on that page. Does the COA have a mailbox, Amy?
Yes.
no, you know, my original mailbox box was, or email was coa@mendonma.gov, but then when they changed all the town's addresses, I became, you know, A. Wilson. It still exists, but it would just come to me. So it probably should go to a more dedicated space, I would think, but.
All right.
If
And,
you need to, Peg, when you're writing your thing, if you need to, we can talk later, but you can send it to you and I too. You or I, because we can consolidate the email. I don't expect a lot of email. But it'd be welcome.
No. Yeah. And one other final, before we end the meeting, you've got to approve my notes from last month. We're supposed to do that first thing.
Oh, sorry, Peggy.
That's it,
I
10
think
last
we
year.
Can we push that to the next meeting because we've really gone over?
Well, if you want to,
Yeah,
you could
I
talk
really
to.
don't.
Does anyone have a motion to, does anyone have a motion, give me a motion to approve Peg's notes from the last meeting?
I'll
as
give it to
released?
you. I'll give it to you.
Okay. Do I have a
I need a
second?
second. Oh, boy. Nobody read them. Hey, I can see right through you. I can see your faces. No second? Come on. You're getting a new secretary next month. Let's go. Come on. Second. Come on, Mr. Phil.
I second.
Oh, whoopee.
All in favor? We gotta do roll call.
Aye. Oh, you got to do roll call.
We got Elena,
Brugos, aye.
Mike. Mike Goddard. Approve the
I know
minutes.
only one person voting, so she's meeting.
You can't vote.
Kersey, aye.
That's right. I'm sorry. Mark,
Patino, aye.
Bill, aye. Approved.
And baby, and Amy, aye.
Yeah, I'm not voting a member.
Okay.
All right. I don't like
Okay.
these remote things.
Okay, folks, thanks for
Thank you
getting
very
through
much, everybody.
through some hard
Mike,
spots
to
as we're
answer your
moving forward.
question, it'd be about 8,500.
Great, thank you.
Thank you all. Next meeting,
Yeah.
we may have one in another week. I still think communications has a lot to do. And if we're gonna go for November, even though it's there, we have those deadlines. If someone, Mike Goddard, you had a chart that had all the deadlines of when we had to do things for state for for November. Or Elena?
Word doc
We ha-
from the meeting.
Yeah, that chart I didn't get that final chart.
Oh, we
We
can
can send
email it to you.
Okay. Because that'll trigger some things that we need to do to get it queued up for something in November, right?
Right.
I almost think,
Right.
Dana, to your point, a special election for $6,000 after using the STM, that exists, probably makes the most sense. And you might actually, if people turn out or the wrong people turning out and wanted less turnout, et cetera, a special election,
Yeah.
might meet that need.
I think, right, we should have some conversations with our town clerk about
Yeah.
which option is, more streamlined for the town, because it sounds like there might be complications with having it piggybacked onto the federal election, and
Right.
it might still have additional cost.
There are still additional costs because there's a ballot and programming minimally. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Why don't we chat about that and we'll still leave that open, but we need to close in on that with deadlines that we would have if we want to do a special.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
And wait,
I-
speaking of town clerk, yeah, we're supposed to do a roll call vote even for the adjournment.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's correct.
And Bill, I have
do I
a
have a-
question for you afterwards.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Did you
Second.
pick another meeting time?
I'm sorry, Peg?
Did you pick another meeting time?
I can't hear you.
No, you're
She
not
asked
muted.
if-
She asked, did you pick another meeting time?
Oh, I did not pick a meeting time.
Okay.
Let's assume a week from today. We can change it if it's not
All
it.
right. All right, then I'll make a motion to adjourn. And I give you the vote of yes.
Second,
Around the horn again, Elena,
Brugos, aye.
Mike? Oh, no, I'm sorry, Mike. Mark,
Patino, aye.
Dave? Peg? Oh, you already did it. Phil, aye. Okay, meeting adjourned.
Thank you. Goodbye. Good night.
Thanks,
Good night.
everybody. It was a good meeting. Thanks for struggling through it.
So my question for you, Phil,